Coming up on this afternoon's edition of the Cowboys Report, the Dolphins have made another trade, kind of maybe even more of a wild one, frankly. We've got a potentially bad Micah Parsons update and some concerning Trevon Diggs injury news as well. Before we dive into that, our goal this month is to beat our previous highs in the month of July for total subscribers gained. It's a boring time of the year. I know that. We don't get training camp until the later parts of July. We're still going to have videos for you each and every single day. Hit that sub button right now so you don't miss out. Let's dive into the news that impacts the Cowboys. The Dolphins made another trade, and this one maybe was just as shocking, if not more so. They got Darren Waller to come out of retirement and come play for them and traded a conditional 6th in next year's class for a 7th in 2027 as well with Waller to get his rights from Miami, or from the Giants. Wild trade. Nobody had that on their bingo card, I promise you that. As for the Cowboys' impact, the Luke Schoonmaker stuff we discussed this morning lasted all of like 20 minutes before it all came crashing down. I think this essentially eliminates the chances of it happening, for now at least. The Dolphins didn't commit a lot here. It's a mostly incentive-based contract with Darren Waller, a future 6th, whatever. They could decide in camp, actually, Darren Waller's cooked. He doesn't have it anymore. They can go get somebody else. And, maybe at that point, the Cowboys love what they see from span forward. They could move on. But for now, this one just doesn't seem very likely to me. This one seems like it's just not going to happen, period, for the Cowboys. Now, what does worry me, which, again, I'm not surprised by it, because how NFL contracts work. I keep trying to tell people. The latest on the TJ Watt contract extension from the People's Insider, Pretty Rickey, a.k.a. Slick Rick, who, by the way, was right on Jalen Ramsey again. He was early on the Dolphins going to trade him, then they announced it, and then was right on Pittsburgh being the guy there, or being the team there. He had this to say earlier this morning. The latest Steelers offer to TJ Watt would make him the highest paid non-quarterback by average per year, but there is still a ways to go on getting the deal done. Expect a deal to get done closer to camp. And then he threw in the Canada stuff to be funny. Look, all of this tracks with the Steelers' MO, where they are willing to do big, expensive contracts. They will pay guys big average per year money. But they've had some issues in years past with some of the guaranteed stuff. So we'll break this down and why I am worried about it for the Cowboys. Not overly worried, but again, we're doing this whole song and dance again. Who gets paid first? MP for Micah Parsons, TJ for TJ Watt. You want to be first on this, by the way. Let me know in the comments of today's show. The Steelers, when they've had issues with contracts, have been over the guarantee money. They used to be a team that didn't guarantee beyond the first season or first 2 seasons. And the game's changed so much, you essentially have to do that now. So to me, with you're already at the highest average per year, why isn't the deal done? There's issues with what the guaranteed money looks like. And the guaranteed money in particular, which we'll go to that first there, Chris, is the big sticking point here. Where Myles Garrett is making $123.6 million in guaranteed money, total guaranteed. Nick Bosa's at $122.5. And then there's a big drop-off to Justin Jefferson. And another drop-off to CeeDee Lamb. Look, already beating Myles Garrett in average per year is bad for Dallas. Even though the guaranteed money does matter more, both TJ Watt and Micah Parsons, what that report tells me is that both of them will end up being the highest paid non-QBs in the NFL, at least by the average per year figure. Both of them are going to command at least $40.25 million, which means the other one is probably going to command at least $40.5, and then you might be at 41 all of a sudden. Or maybe it's 40.26 if they want to get into the minutia there. You don't want to be last here. You don't want to be last in line when it comes to having a record-setting contract. Imagine if the Cowboys had massive urgency and they had said, you know what? Let's see if we can do it now. Maybe you didn't get him at 35.5 like Max Crosby. Maybe you got him at 38. And then Myles Garrett would have gotten paid. And then Jamar Chase would have gotten paid. And then TJ Watt would have gotten paid. And now you would have been 4th before he even played a game. All waiting does, if the player's good enough, which I think we're at this point here, is increase the price. So pick up the phone, Jerry. Pick up the phone, Steven. Do what Micah asked you to do months ago and call the agent. Operate with urgency one damn time. You have zero benefits to waiting. It doesn't help you. It has never helped you unless you're just not going to pay the player, which you're obviously going to do here. Only Micah / the agent benefit here. They don't need to pick up the phone right now because the worst case for them, they just got more money out of it. I'm trying to save you guys money. I'm trying to save you cash. I'm trying to save you salary cap space. The extra $1 million doesn't really impact things in a bubble. Like, okay, whatever, that's not going to be enough to stop it from happening, etc. But when you do it 5, 6 times, and you do it not for $1 million, but for 3, 4, 5 million, you do it over years, it adds up quickly. And that's how you don't get to retain a Jordan Lewis if you wanted to. That's the type of stuff that impacts you. It's bad business. It's bad accounting. And it's frustrating. CeeDee Lamb jerseys, speaking of guys who got paid, are available at chatsports.com/Lamb. Under $100, by the way. At least for some of them. Not all of them. There's some of like the expensive Nike Vapor Pro, whatever it is. But you can find yourself a great deal with all the different jersey types at chatsports.com/Lamb. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's chatsports.com/Lamb. The clickable link over there in the corner on top of that. Bryan Broaddus reporting the Cowboys are not going to know about Trevon Diggs' true return timeline until mid-August. And the context here from Bryan on Twitter was he was asked about Diggs being able to return in week 1 like he himself has stated he wants to do. Look, I am of this mindset, even if it is like, can you play in week 1 or not versus like the overall timeline. If you don't know whether you're going to be able to play in week 1 until mid-August, with less than a month to go until the week 1 deadline, you're probably just not going to play in week 1. I think we can read between the lines there. It still feels like, and I think this is just the reality the Cowboys are facing, unfortunately, he's going to miss time. And that has been the expectation from the Cowboys organization since he had the unusual knee surgery. And that's despite what Diggs has said. I appreciate him having the week 1 goal in mind. I just don't know if it's necessarily the most realistic goal in mind. I think he starts training camp on the PUP list. And he does the rehab work on the side. And then we'll see when he's cleared and out there and active. But I am taking a wait-and-see approach here with Diggs. Because I don't know when he's going to be back. I don't know if it's week 1 or week 5 or week 10 or week 15 or whatever. I think it's much more of an unknown. A little bit more on this to come, but shoot your shot. Make your predictions for me. Maybe it's the bye week he's back. What week will Trevon Diggs return to the Cowboys? Let me know in the comments of today's show. This next part kind of sucks because you're paying Trevon Diggs to be a lot more than this. I think you have to treat him as an extra, as a wild card, as a bonus to what your cornerback room looks like this upcoming season. The reality is he's coming off another injury. He was never a burner in the first place. I don't know how good he'll be. He probably won't be the same guy the first week he's back as he's going to look like the 8th week he's back. Like it's not going to be instantaneous. I don't think that's a fair expectation to have for Trevon Diggs. I don't know what he's going to be. We are potentially staring down the barrel of this being Diggs' last year in Dallas with the way the contract is set up. And I want him out there. I would love to have him out there. I'm still not as anti-Diggs as I know some people in the comments are, and that's fine. This is America. You can argue and disagree. It's not a problem. But I don't want to assume he's back week 1 or even week 5. Because what happens if he's not? What happens if Savone Revel just isn't ready yet? He needs more time to acclimate to life in the NFL. Then it's Deron Bland, Kyer Elam, and the funky bunch of Kalen Carson, Israel Mukwamu, Andrew Booth, Robert Rochelle maybe. And knock on wood, even worse, what happens if somebody else gets hurt? Injuries happen. That is a reality of football life. If you lose another player beyond the Diggs-Revel combo, that's a really dangerously thin cornerback room. That's why I keep harping on it, because I'm not comfortable with the way it is currently constructed.